I'm sure if there were a devil and you were to meet him, he'd be quite charming, I'm sure.
In the 1990s, America needed a villain. Not a cartoonish bad guy, but a real, tangible monster it could point to. A symbol of everything that was wrong, corrupt, and dangerous. And from the sweltering heat of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, an artist named Brian Warner decided to give them one. He would become that monster. He would wear its face, speak in its voice, and hold up a funhouse mirror to a nation's deepest fears. This is not just the story of a shock rocker. This is the story of Marilyn Manson, the monster, the scapegoat, and the man. Before the makeup, there was Brian Warner, a sharp, observant music journalist who understood the power of iconography. He crafted his alias from two of the 20th century's most potent symbols, the glamour of Marilyn Monroe and the chaos of Charles Manson. This was his thesis, to expose the grotesque underbelly of the American dream. His early shows with the Spooky Kids were less concerts and more happenings, designed to dismantle the barrier between performer and audience. He didn't just want to be heard, he wanted to provoke a reaction. This philosophy was perfectly captured in his debut single, Lunchbox, with its threatening yet absurd chorus. "I've got a lunchbox, and I'm not afraid to use it." It was juvenile, but it was also a declaration of war on the mundane. The media, ever hungry for a story, took the bait. Speaking on The Phil Donahue Show in 1994, a surprisingly articulate Manson, flanked by horrified parents, calmly stated his case. "I think that people need to see something that's not safe, because safe is boring." The outrage was instant, and it was just the beginning. In 1996, the provocation became a crusade. The album Antichrist Superstar was a nihilistic industrial rock opera that didn't just critique organized religion, it declared all-out war on it. Manson adopted the persona of the Little Horn, a false prophet leading the weak toward destruction. The lead single, The Beautiful People, with its distorted vocals and grinding industrial riff, became an unlikely anthem for the disaffected.
"'Cause I see you all sitting out there trying your hardest not to be ugly, trying your hardest not to fit in."
The backlash was nuclear. Reverend Donald Wildman of the American Family Association called the album a threat to the moral well-being of our children. In cities across America, parents and religious groups organized public record burnings. A pastor in South Carolina was quoted as saying, "This isn't music, it's audio poison." In turn, Manson leaned in. His concerts became theatrical seances of blasphemy, featuring ripped Bibles and inverted crosses. He was no longer just a musician, he was the high priest of a cultural panic, and his church was the 6 o'clock news. Then, on April 20th, 1999, the world changed. The Columbine High School massacre left a nation traumatized and desperate for answers. When it was revealed the shooters, Eric Harris and Dylan Klibbenbald, were fans of his music, Marilyn Manson was instantly anointed the cause of the tragedy. He was vilified on national television, a convenient demon for a complex, incomprehensible evil. Time magazine ran a cover story asking, "The monster's next door." But the article inside pointed fingers at the culture of hate, with Manson as its prime export.
Did you endorse mass shootings?
No, absolutely not.
So why are you in Columbine?
Because I happen to have a song in The Matrix that just come out.
In a stunning move, Manson canceled the remainder of his tour and retreated from the public eye. He refused to comment for months. When he finally broke his silence, it was in the pages of Rolling Stone. His response was not defensive, it was sociological. He wrote what is perhaps the most insightful commentary on the entire tragedy. "I was a poster boy for fear. I think it's tragic that people died, but it's also tragic that in the face of tragedy, most people don't want to know why. They want someone to blame." He argued that the culture of bullying, isolation, and fear that festered in schools like Columbine was the true culprit, stating, "The kids who were called freaks and the kids who got beat up, I was one of them. They're the kids I write for." His eloquence in the face of hatred forced many to see him not just as a monster, but as a surprisingly thoughtful commentator. In the 2000s, the shocks seemed to soften. Manson became a mainstream celebrity, dating actress Evan Rachel Wood and appearing in movies. The villain had been, if not embraced, then accepted as part of the cultural fabric. But this acceptance was a facade. In 2021, the carefully constructed persona shattered completely. Evan Rachel Wood, along with a few other women, came forward with detailed, horrific allegations of abuse, manipulation, and grooming. She testified before a California Senate committee without naming him, describing a pattern of brainwashing and psychological torture. She later named him directly on Instagram, writing, "He started grooming me when I was a teenager and horrifically abused me for years." The fallout was absolute. His record label, Loma Vista, dropped him, stating, "We will not be working with Marilyn Manson any further." His booking agency and management followed suit. The man who had built a career on playing a monster was now facing allegations of being one in reality. The performance was over. Only the reckoning remained. The story of Marilyn Manson is a dark fairy tale for the modern age. It's about the monster we asked for, the monster we created, and the terrifying possibility that the monster was real all along. He held up a mirror to our obsession with fame, violence, and religion, and we were too busy being horrified to see our own reflection staring back. Who should we investigate next on the Missing Riff? The 90s and 2000s are filled with stories of fame, fortune, and spectacular falls from grace. Tell us in the comments. Subscribe and hit the bell to ensure you don't miss our next deep dive into the controversies that defined a generation of music. Thanks for watching.